Fallout. Fallout. Chai. Chai, do you like Fallout? No? No, he wants to go. He wants to go. Alrighty. Anyways, guys. Fallout TV show. Let me get the script up. We got 14 pages. Got some stuff to talk about. I watched the Fallout show. It was good. I know. Crazy. Typically, video game adaptations in live-action formats for TV and movies suck. Do we really need to go into examples? Halo? Sorry, guys. You're just another sci-fi TV show. I know. It's embarrassing. But no, we've actually had some good ones recently with Fallout. The Cyberpunk Edgerunners with Arcane. Haven't actually seen it, but I've heard good things. And yeah, I think this one's going to be talked about for a while. It's not perfect, but it's mostly lore accurate, and it is a good marketing tool. Because guess what? I went back and played the Fallout games, and so did a ton of you guys, I'm assuming. Lots of people did. Look at the Steam charts. Look at the Xbox charts, the PlayStation, Sony Live charts. Everyone's playing the games, specifically going back to the newest ones, right? Fallout 4, Fallout 76. And that pisses off the OG fans. They get excited. They get riled up, and they will scream from the rooftops that you should be playing Fallout New Vegas instead, or maybe even Fallout 3. So, as someone who grew up with Fallout 4, I was a little bit too young to play 3 and New Vegas. I saw them on the shelf. Are you coming up? He's on the computer now. But yeah, I was a little bit too young. I was technically, I could have played him, but I was just, I couldn't really get into him, right? My first real Fallout experience was with Fallout 4 in, high school and even into college. Put in over 120 hours in that bad boy. Over 5 days, baby. We loved that game. It's nostalgic for me. But yeah, people are saying go back and play the other one. So that's what I did. I finally took the last few months. You probably noticed a lot less of other content. If you're an old fan of the channel, a subscriber, where's the Grab Champions? Hey, relax. Updates coming soon. We went into Fallout mode for a while. Played a lot of games. Specifically, the main games. Even if we ignore the ugly red-headed stepchildren that are, Brotherhood of Steel and Fallout Tactics and Fallout Shelter, bleh, puke. There's still 6 main entries in this series, spanning over 225 years of lore, too, which I didn't realize. Fallout 4 is like just one little snippet in the year 2287 or some shit. It's a long timeline. There's a lot more to the series than I originally knew. And of course, guys, this is YouTube in 2024. Oh, tier list, baby. We love arguing around these parts. We really do. So strap in. Grab your Nuka-Cola. Maybe your little Pip-Boy toy that you got at Walmart, you consumerist idiot. Get those keyboard fingers ready, because I'm going to piss you guys off. Maybe. I don't know. We'll see. Anyway, let's dive into these games in release order and get into it. Alright, Fallout starts all the way back in 1997 with Fallout 1, which is technically called Fallout, a post-nuclear role-playing game. This game, and the second one, are very, very old. Most of you watching weren't even born. I was, though. Goddamn, I'm old. It's a game developed by Interplay, not Bethesda. We'll talk a little bit about that coming up here. It's an isometric point-and-click, turn-based. I believe it technically is a CRPG, a classic role-playing game. Basically, the story takes place in the year 2161, which is almost a century after the bombs dropped within the Fallout world. Bombs dropped in 2077. Chronologically, this is technically the second game, as Fallout 76, for whatever reason, actually takes place earlier. So the nuclear war has caused people to take shelter in vaults, or at least those that are lucky enough to afford it. It's not cheap. So you play as a Vault Dweller, is your official character name, from Vault 13. And you have to venture out into the wasteland on a quest to find a computer chip that'll fix your vault's failed water supply system. The main gist is really just that, but obviously it's Fallout and it's a role-playing game, so you encounter lots of different interesting NPCs and factions and lots of side quests along your way. There's tons of open-ended gameplay here, giving players the ability to approach quests and challenges in multiple ways. Even with the old school point-and-click isometric camera, there's still ways to sneak versus engage versus talk your way out of situations like we all know and love for any of the Fallout games. It's become a pillar of the game. It is a role-playing game. It's also got a very memorable, gritty, and dark atmosphere with a retro-futuristic aesthetic. Ultimately, the main selling point from what I've gathered from this first entry is the special system. Strength, perception, endurance, charisma, intellect. Is it intellect? Intelligence. I want to make sure I'm being accurate here. A for agility and L for luck. Special. And this is kind of how your character stats work. You can rank up each of these 7 main stats up to level 10. Each of these main 7 stats have an effect on things like your carry weight, your max health, your endurance, your AP points, etc. And you kind of start off with a certain number of special stats, and then you can pick a couple starting perks and traits. With over 50 total perks to choose from, there's a really, really good foundation of variety here. From day one, from game number 1, you have a good amount of, malleability with your character. That's a stupid word to use, but we're going to keep it in here. So definitely a strong suit for the game and the series. It's extremely iconic. You're special, baby. All in all, though, this is an old game. It just is. And I am kind of a loser, but I couldn't play the whole thing. I just didn't care enough about it. I'm going to take other opinions from the internet to heart here and assume that it is a pretty good game for what it was at the time. I'm not going to play it because it's still a point-and-click isometric game that is extremely slow and boring for me, at least. It's just, I don't know, I'm almost a zoomer at heart at this point, so it's just not for me. But again, I'm going to acknowledge that it's good, and we are going to put it solidly right in the middle of B tier. It's decent. You know what I just realized is I don't have a tier list on the screen. I don't have a tier list, period. I should probably have a tier list. Ooh, he's cooking. So yeah, not for me, but I can give credit where credit is due. Fallout 1, which is actually here. We're only looking at these 6. I'm taking DLC into account for the ones that have it, but we're not looking at Brotherhood, Fallout, Tactics, Shelter, all this bullshit. These 6. And what we have here is Fallout 1, B tier. I know, weak sauce, didn't go into it. And unfortunately, I'm going to do the same approach here with Fallout 2. 1 year later, Fallout 2, a post-nuclear role-playing game. It was actually developed by an offshoot of the Interplay Studios known as Black Isle. It's the same group of developers to my knowledge and from what I could see, but it is a sub-team. Interplay is working on multiple projects at this point. So Black Isle takes over, and the game's story now takes place in the year 2241, which is 80 years after the events of the first game, and now 164-ish years after the bombs dropped. Those numbers don't really mean anything, but, math. This time you play as the Chosen One. You are the grandchild of the first game's protagonist, and due to the way that game ends, you're actually not a Vault Dweller anymore. You are out in the west. You just kind of have a West Coast small village. It's kind of unnamed. I mean, maybe there's a name. I didn't look it up. Who cares? Not that important. And we're going to keep this one short and sweet. Very early on, I realized that this is just like Fallout 1, but they kind of improved the breadth and depth of all of the core systems. But it looks the same, it plays the same. It's a point-and-click, isometric CRPG. And for me, again, it's just not for me, right? So there's a bit more story here. There's more missions. There are more interactable factions and NPCs. They buffed up the animation. They cranked the humor to 11 here. Editor, go ahead and insert the angry power armor rant clip.
You are out of uniform, soldier! Where is your power armor?
But yeah, my opinion doesn't change on experiencing this type of game. I credit where credit's due. I'm gonna say B tier as well, but slightly higher because it is an improvement across the board from what I've seen and from the little amount of time that I put into it. So we got our OG games as B tier. You could probably say they're A tier if we're going off of role-playing and role-playing alone, but we're not, so. Anyway, let's move on to Fallout 3. A decade later, baby. It is now 2008. But we gotta talk about the development teams. Because like I mentioned, Fallout 1 was Interplay. Fallout 2 was still Interplay, but it was called Black Isle. And then Black Isle was prepping for Fallout 3. They actually had a Fallout 3, if you see down here, this canceled version, but financial issues. They ultimately sold the IP of Fallout to Bethesda. Bethesda takes over. They scrap the work on Fallout 3 as it was and create their own version of Fallout 3 in 2008. With this change in ownership came a pretty drastic change in the course of the Fallout series. And ultimately, I think that most people can agree that these changes were for the better. The most obvious transition is the transition to first/third person combat in a fully three-dimensional world. That obviously is just part of the times. An isometric point and click doesn't make too much sense to come out in the mid-2000s. But regardless, it's a huge change for this series. The game takes place in the year 2277 in the Washington, D.C. area. You control an inhabitant of Vault 101 this time, who is forced to venture out into the capital wasteland to find their father after he disappeared from the vault under mysterious circumstances. You find yourself basically trying to complete your father's work as you figure out bits and pieces of it, and you're ultimately fighting against the Enclave, which is kind of like a really weak sauce, corrupt version of the U.S. government at this point in the timeline. Hi, buddy. He's looking at the lava lamp. He's like, whoa, dude. Is that a lava lamp? Actually, can I? Look at him. He's so stupid. Hi. Anyway, player choice remains a really high priority here with this game, and there are multiple distinct endings due to your choices throughout the game, how you interact with various quest lines, including some side quests actually having an impact on the final ending with the various video segments that you get played. You actually get like a slideshow PowerPoint of various pre-rendered videos based on your decisions throughout the game. There are actually 29 independent video segments for the ending. You don't see literally 29. You get bits and pieces of a handful of different sections based on your in-game actions. So it's very, very, very much leaning into that player choice as the first 2 games did. Another big introduction and new feature for Fallout 3 is VATS, the Vault-Tec Assisted Targeting System. Great acronym here. This series uses lots of acronyms. Sometimes they're pretty funny. But yeah, VATS. This is like the main Fallout thing now at this point. You know, looking all the way back, it's iconic, and most other games have never even attempted to replicate what VATS does. Here in Fallout 3, VATS completely pauses combat and allows you to focus on and select body parts to attack, to shoot at, or to swing a melee weapon at, or whatever. Attacks cost AP, basically your endurance meter, your stamina bar, right? It is just a cinematic, cool way that they've blended real-time and turn-based combat. The turn-based point-and-click from the previous game still exists, kind of, it's just within the realm of this VATS system, this VATS feature. Deaths within VATS are some of the most fun you will have with a shooter game, period. If you see clips on social media, it's probably a goofy VATS clip. It stands out as one of the best improvements in the game for me personally. Overall, Fallout 3 stands at the top of many reputable reviewers as one of the best games of all time. It's up there. I mean, it's not like top 10, but it is a very high score. It's the highest Metacritic score for any game in the Fallout series. It's routinely referenced even against modern shooters. Many shooters can easily be proven to draw inspiration from Fallout 3. It's just an iconic freaking game. But the modern experience of playing this game is meh. It's tough. Mods exist. Because mods exist, it's hard to be like, this game's glitchy, just download the mods. But it's like, what if you're on Xbox? And we know for a fact that there's not a mods menu built in until Fallout 4 and like Skyrim, that era of the games from Bethesda. So you can't. You're just stuck with a glitchy mess. It's also not very nice to look at, but it's an older game, so, you know, a little bit of give and take there. I'm kind of just not feeling how it's missing some of the stuff from more modern games. Again, we got to give credit where credit's due. We got to take a look at these within the realm of the year that they're produced and what they did with what they had, with the resources, with the technology, with everything. So I can't shit on it too hard, but I mean, you don't even have ADS for most guns unless it's like a sniper with a scope. Like, that's goofy. Lots of grays, lots of browns. It's a boring to look at game, and it gets meh. I also personally knew that during this research, playing through all these games, that I wanted to play Fallout New Vegas a hell of a lot more than Fallout 3, especially based on the crowd online that's very loud about the game. It just made more sense to dive into that one. So I didn't really beat Fallout 3. I could rant about this a little bit, but I'm going to save more of these kinds of thoughts for Fallout New Vegas. Rumors of a remaster might be happening here in 2024, 2025. If that happens, I'll probably actually play it fully at that point. Till then, I'm going to continue with recognizing the greatness, accepting that the general population says it's good, it's probably pretty good, and I definitely like it a hell of a lot more than Fallout 1 and 2. So we're placing this bad boy in A tier, and I think that's pretty fair. It's not the best game in the series because the next few are better, but it is a very, very good game, and it really kickstarted and catapulted the series into mega fame. Speaking of popularity, they weren't ready, because Fallout 3 skyrocketed to the top of charts, and they were able to pump out some DLC, but ultimately they didn't have the resources to quickly make a sequel. They had to look outside. Remember the developer conversation? Black Isle, they sold the game, they went under, but they didn't disappear. Black Isle former employees split off and created Obsidian Entertainment. So, when Bethesda was looking for someone to take over because they were busy with a little-known game called Skyrim, they went with Obsidian. These are technically developers that have experience and worked on the original 2 games. It's a perfect match. Then in 2010, after only like 18 months, some ridiculous timeline, Fallout New Vegas arrived on the shelves. And it was rocky because it was 18 months of crunch, and it was a glitchy mess, but I'll get into that in a minute because it's been a long time and things are a lot better now. For many, oh so very loud Fallout fans, New Vegas is the pinnacle of the series, maybe even the pinnacle of role-playing games as a whole. It is fantastic from that perspective. I can't lie. I spent nearly 75 hours from my first playthrough, including some DLC, all of the DLC, and I had a lot of fun with this game. I can see where the fanatics are coming from. I can understand why this game grew such a cult following, because it did. It didn't sell that well when it came out in comparison to Fallout 3, in comparison to the next game, Fallout 4. But over time, people have looked back, and it has grown into a ridiculous cult. And it's not a bad thing, but it is a little bit cult-like, okay? I'm putting an asterisk on all of this because I don't think I'm going to drink the cult Kool-Aid, okay? I don't think I am. I liked the game, but it's not the best thing I've ever played. It's not the second coming of Christ over here. And I think some of you guys are a little bit brainwashed by some of the pros you don't see how bad the cons are, because there are some great pros, but there's also some really, really bad cons to this game. At least, for what I personally look for in a game. Again, this whole thing is my personal preference. You're allowed to disagree, so stay with me. Hear me out for a second before you start telling me how I'm an idiot in the comments, okay? So let's get into what the game brings that's good. Let's do the pros first, shall we? You play as the Courier. You are a non-vault dwelling character, just like Fallout 2, and you're basically just tasked with delivering a special package. It's a platinum poker chip, and you start off, you don't know what the hell it is. They show you a cutscene, one of the most iconic cutscenes to start off a video game of all time. And guess what? The delivery does not go well. It goes horribly wrong. You get shot by a cocky business bro named Benny, and you wake up nursed back to health in a tiny town called Good Springs. From there, you are really just set forth into the Mojave, the New Vegas wasteland. And you basically just have one single task. Figure out what this chip was and why you were even trying to deliver it to Mr. House in the first place. Mr. House is kind of a self-elected ruler of the New Vegas Strip, so he's kind of like this weird omnipotent business dude. You don't really know much about him. You don't really know much about the platinum chip. You don't know much about the dude who killed you. There's a lot of open question marks, and have fun, figure it out. And from that perspective, it is freaking sick how they just let you run loose with very minimal handholding. They barely even teach you the base mechanics of the game. It's like you're expected to have already played Fallout 3, which at that point makes sense in 2010, but it's very hands-on. As usual with a Fallout game, you get lost in really complex stories involving many different factions and your companions and all this good stuff. This is by far the strongest point of this game. Strongest aspect, the strongest selling point, the strongest mechanic, whatever word you want to use here. The story and your role-playing aspects, your player agency, the way your decisions impact the game, easily the strongest in the series. It is said that there's over 65,000 lines of dialogue in this game if you include the DLCs, and holy shit, I believe it. You can just ask people about their life and learn, and it's not just, oh, here's the same dude that I saw 4 towns ago with the same handful of lines by the same voice actor. It's like different voice actors and different backstories, and they all are intertwined and they all connect and they're all relatively meaningful. I mean, look, it's not that important that some random dude's son died and now you gotta go track down the killer, but the fact that those exist and are actually well thought out is it's just so cool seeing it. That example sucked, and I don't have footage for it, but you get the point. You can dive as deep or as shallow on any topic, any backstory, any storyline, any faction as you want. I mean, truly dialogue adjusts to your actions. It's just that simple. Storylines mend and evolve, and the main game endings have many nuanced differences based on how you play. It's not just a couple main endings with a couple different variations. There's like, I couldn't even find a number. It's so many, and it's hard to, like, how do you define a new ending if it's a slight nuanced difference? Is that 2 endings or 1? Anyway, there's a lot. Damn, it's worth replaying, in my opinion, to go back and find different endings, and I will definitely be doing that in the future. I can only imagine looking at this game's storyboard and seeing how interconnected everything is. It's crazy. It's insane. I've already beat this dead horse, but just trust the loud people on the internet when they say that Fallout New Vegas is the best story in the Fallout universe, period, no questions, end of story. But that's not all there is to playing a video game, especially in 2024 when you're used to a certain level of polish with your games. And so this is where I get into some of the cons. The Mojave is a desert, so just like I was complaining about Fallout 3, this game is bland to look at. Lots of grays, browns, and oranges, and then other shades in there. I mean, look, it's a desert, so what do I expect? I'm not expecting tropical Florida or, I don't know, glacier Iceland areas, but it is very boring, or it can be if you're not really sucked into the story. And when the game crashes on you so often, you get a little bit sucked out. You get pulled out. You get a little bit frustrated. Then you're just looking at the same colors, and it just kind of adds up and boils and stews until it's boiling over, right? At least for me, it did. The DLCs did generally help bring in some new settings and set pieces, so we can talk about those for a second here. Honest Hearts gave us a nice transition into Red Rock with the Zion hiking area. Zion's actually beautiful in real life, and it was cool seeing it in video game format. One of the best NPCs in the entire game with Joshua Graham was added. I did kind of accidentally skip through some of the side quests, so I went through it pretty quick, didn't even realize it. It was like one day, like 6 hours, and I was done. I was like, oh, I thought there was more. But it was still cool. I liked it. Definitely a lot of fun. Moving into Dead Money. This was technically the first DLC, but I think it makes more sense to play it second. So that's what I did. And guys, I don't know, man. I think this might be the most overhyped DLC of all of fucking gaming. I swear to God, if you're typing skill issue in the comments right now, pause, bitch. Pause. It's not because it's hard, because I don't understand where people are coming. I've looked at the Reddit threads. Everyone just, it's like, if you didn't like it, you must suck. It's like, no, dude. The explosive collar is just annoying. Obviously, that's where the challenge comes, is figuring out how to avoid the devices that set that off. But more so, tons and tons and tons of backtracking, and the only real loot is a couple weapons you get at the beginning, and then potentially some gold bars at the end. What the goofy, man. The Sierra Madre, oh my God. I mean, the machines, vending machines with the coins, that was kind of cool way to buy more stim packs and stuff. But other than that, I'm just bored and annoyed at having to backtrack everywhere and deal with the stupid explosive collar, all just to like be told that you need to let go and like, oh, here's the gold, but you're not really allowed to take it because it's too much carry weight. So the whole thing about letting go, and then blah 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 blah. Big thumbs down, buddy. I never want to talk about the Sierra Madre ever again. I swear to God. If I replay this game, which I do plan on, I am skipping this. Okay, moving on to Old World Blues. This one is actually really sick. Very strong start with some hilarious dialogue. You discover that you're a lobotomite. There's like all these doctors that have had their brains put into these robots, and they're all pretty quirky and funny. Big, nice, large, playable area. Genuinely cool to explore. A little bit of backtracking, but it wasn't too bad. Loot is some decent, cool new stuff. Nothing too crazy. In general, I thought it was better than Dead Bunny, but I did actually like Honest Hearts more. And then finally, there's Lonesome Road. This one was really quick. You're kind of just like walking on an endless highway, and then eventually you get to decide to nuke someone at the end if you want. Pretty rewarding, but definitely quick. Nothing too special here. I mean, overall, the DLC is solid. It's not bad, but I don't think I'm going to be like praising and remembering these experiences from the DLC specifically for like years on into my life. Happy they made them. I have a feeling that, you know, with how much they had to crunch to get the main game out, they were happy to be able to add and expand with the DLC content, and they are decent DLCs, but that's my 2 cents on that. Moving into like other just cool gameplay mechanics that were introduced in the game, or just stuff I want to talk about. Just like Fallout 3, we have the return of conditions of weapons and gear and just loot as a whole. I like it. It actually is not part of Fallout 4 and kind of reintroduced into Fallout 76. Alright, well, in Fallout 4, it's there for the power armor, but you just click a button to repair and you spend some steel and whatever, it's repaired. So the way it works in 3 and in New Vegas, at least I think it's the same in 3, but definitely New Vegas, is you have weapons and armor, and their condition goes down over time, and you can like sacrifice gear to repair. So it gives low-tiered loot a place in the game. It's not just garbage that you skip. You can actually hold on to a few pieces because you know that your favorite pistol, it needs to be repaired soon, and then you can sacrifice a garbage little pistol to repair it. Also, just inventory management as a whole. You're almost full? Oh, carry weight. Oh, bullshit. Scrap a couple things. Or not scrap, but repair a couple things. Effectively scrapping it, right? Free up some weight. Pretty cool. I liked it. I didn't mind it, and I actually got so used to the way that system worked that when I wasn't there in Fallout 4, and I was still like just looting all the garbage weapons and armor, I was constantly over encumbered and having to go back and sell stuff or just drop stuff. You get to a point where a lot of lower tiered loot is just worthless. And I get it, it's lower tiered, it's more common. Like, that's how rarity systems and loot systems work in games, but at the same time, I didn't like it as much. Moving on to the soundtrack, this is actually the first game in the series where I think the soundtrack truly stands out. Like, I know that the atmospheric soundtracks of all of the games have been well received, but I think in Fallout New Vegas, it's to the point where you will actually remember these things and see them as nostalgic and stuff like that. I mean, I don't think I'm ever going to be able to look at a pair of Paddle boots with spurs and not think of Jingle Jangle Jingle, or a dude named Johnny playing a guitar without thinking of goddamn Johnny Guitar Song. Yeah, it's repetitive. Yeah, they could have added more, but, you know, blame the development cycle being so short. And honestly, it wouldn't be as nostalgic if I didn't hear these things on repeat. You know, they've built up an emotional response in my brain now, and I think it's cool. I think they did a really good job. So overall, talking about the pros here, New Vegas gives us everything that made the role-playing aspects of the first 2 games, and even 3 to some extent, really good. But then obviously it's got the engine, the first and third person style of Fallout 3, and just makes the best possible version of all of these first 3 games. It is the best Fallout up until this point by far. I might make a separate video getting into the nitty-gritty details, maybe a Fallout New Vegas versus 4 kind of thing, I don't know. But the short of it is that this game is fantastic. But here's where I go into the con. I need to put an asterisk. I do have my gripes with this game, and most of it comes down to the technical aspects. And again, I understand. 18 months is not a long time to make a game of this caliber. It's witchcraft voodoo magic that this game even works at all after such a short development cycle. But yeah, it's janky. I mean, the Bethesda creation engine is janky to begin with. It's part of the fun. The ragdoll physics and bat skills funny glitches, keeps you on your toes, and it's a selling point. We love the jank, and we live for the jank. Except to the point where it just impacts your ability to play the game for more than 15 minutes without it crashing. I mean, guys, that computer that you saw with the cat on it, 7800X 3D, Ryzen processor, and a 4080 Super. It's hard to buy a better system than this. Yeah, you can get a 4090 and maybe like an Intel 14900K or something, but you know what I mean? For gaming, this is a fucking insane computer. Why am I crashing? Even with mods that are supposed to add stability, why am I crashing? Okay, maybe the load order was messed up. Maybe I forgot a couple extra mods. I'm sure that there's something I could have done to make it smoother. But at the same time, it's like, god damn, man. It's 2024. It's been so many years. Almost 14 years from the release date. What are we doing? How is it this fucked up? Even with mods being like, oh, well, mods will fix it. It's like, on console, there's no mods. There's no mod menu. Mod menu not in the game until Fallout 4 and freaking Skyrim. And even then, it was like not there at release. The Bethesda net mods. I know that's not the same as Nexus. It doesn't have all the mods, and especially on console, you're limited to like 2 gigabytes. I mean, it's limiting, but you can still download, basic graphical uplift, add some better colors or like a LUT to make it look better, some texture reshade stuff, like just the general unofficial patch it to fix some janky shit. And even with that though, the crazy thing is even with those, New Vegas still ran like shit. I mean, I'm used to spamming quick save. Every encounter, I'm quick saving. It's like I don't want to have to deal with a random crash. Like, oh, failed to open the door and load the new area. Gotta reload the game. It just kept happening. It kept freaking happening. If you're playing this vanilla game, no mods, good fucking luck. Good luck, okay? So, I mean, it comes down to being like, look, is your sales pitch really, this is the best game. You just need to go out and buy a bunch of mods. Or not buy, but download. You get the point, right? Like, that's not a strong sales pitch, in my opinion. I mean, look at this comment I got on Instagram on one of my reels. This comment spells it out. This happens so fucking much in New Vegas, but it's the best game. And the crashes, but it's the best game. And the vendor only has like 5 bullets. Best Fallout though. And some quests can't be finished unless you build your character a certain way. But it's the best one. And there are exactly 2 enemy AI, but it's the best one. You get the point. If there's this many cons, how is this the best Fallout game? Yes, story, it's the best. Role-playing aspect, it's the best. But when the game runs like 14 years later with mods, I'm sorry, but I'm not giving this S tier. I'm not. I can't in good conscience do that. Yeah. It's nice that the modding community is passionate. It's nice that they've fixed so many things, but clearly they didn't get it all. Clearly there's fundamental issues at the source code level or something that are just preventing this game from being as good as it can be, and that's unfortunate. That doesn't mean it's a bad game, by the way. I'm not saying this game sucks, but I'm not gonna bend the knee and act like this is the best game of all time because it runs like dog shit, even in 2024 with a good game computer and mods downloaded. I ended up getting so bored and tired of the crashes that once I finished the DLC and went back to like actually diving deeper into the different main factions to determine an ending, I said, I'm just gonna get this over with. And I went with the Yes Man ending. And that's not a good sign because I probably missed substantial amount of content. I barely touched the Brotherhood of Steel. Like that sucks. There's probably a lot of good missions, a lot of fun stuff in there that I would have enjoyed, but I need to play other games and move forward with my life. I can't just constantly crash and spend another 50 hours dealing with garbage, so I didn't. So anyway, for a Fallout game, it's still the best ending to date. Don't get it twisted. I don't hate this game. I promise you I don't hate this game. Stop commenting, relax. I mean, comment if you want, it helps the algorithm, but this is still the best one by far. I'm not drinking the Kool-Aid from the dickheads who refuse to acknowledge the game's drawbacks. I'm just not gonna do it. Many of the same drawbacks are obviously still present in Fallout 3, so this is going A tier above 3. If we're comparing a theoretical modded version of the game, then it might be S tier. Probably would be. But even then, it's not what we're doing. And if you're instantly triggered by all this, then just realize you are the Simpsons meme of the old man yells at cloud. But instead of an old man, you're probably in your late 20s, early 30s. Instead of yelling at clouds, you're yelling at kids who just want a game that's not broken. We just want to play a game that works. In my opinion, no amount of fantastic story will change that experience if the experience is still riddled with bugs and issues. Maybe I'm over-exaggerating, but that's how it felt by the end. My smile was slowly decreasing over the course of 75 hours until I just wanted to roll the credits and move on to Fallout 4. So there it is, high A tier. And let's move on to Fallout 4. Moving on back to Bethesda's development, they released Skyrim in 2011 and then started cooking on Fallout 4, which released in 2015. In many ways, this game is a step forward for the series, but there's also a lot of substantial steps back. There's a lot of give and take here. Lots of pros and lots of cons. Playing as the sole survivor of Vault 111, you enter cryosleep, and the bombs start dropping, and then you wake up in 2287, you see that your partner is gone, dead, and your son Sean is gone, missing. From there, the overarching goal is pretty straightforward. Go find your son, figure it out. It's post-nuclear Boston ruins known as the Commonwealth, and you've got your typical handful of main factions and storylines and side quests and fun stuff to explore. The core experience is similar to 3 New Vegas in that aspect. You go out and venture into a large area and can progress through the main story, and then there's lots of side stories and lots of endings. That said, the story here is widely agreed to be underwhelming and much weaker than New Vegas, and definitely even weaker than Fallout 3 probably. That is probably more of an argument or toss-up depending on who you are, but it's definitely weaker than New Vegas. There are fewer overall endings, with 4 main endings and some nuance with those, but even those 4 all feel like really similar, hardly any real difference. I mean, guys, it's hard to play this game and not feel like your decisions are worthless or damn near worthless. Your time in the Commonwealth is not that impactful to the ending. It's a massive dropped ball from that aspect. So if we're just talking about story, Fallout 4 is pretty, but we're not. We're talking about a game, and there are aspects to a game that stretch further than your story in the role-playing aspects of the story. Because the story, it's not that the story is actually it's just when you're used to better stories, it feels like and when you're used to your player decisions impacting dialogue in the future and things crossing over and intertwining, when that stops happening or doesn't happen nearly as much, it feels bad. If Fallout 4 were Fallout 1, then we'd be like, yeah, we'd be celebrating it, but it's not. It's Fallout 4. You'd expect it to be better each entry. In that aspect, it is not better. I think a lot of this can be attributed to the addition of playable character being fully voice acted. It's a first for the series, and it's a double-edged sword, right? Because having a voice acting for your character, whether you choose male or female, is an improvement in quality and immersion from a theoretical AAA quality standpoint, right? But at the same time, they're not writing 65,000 lines for these people to voice act. It's not fucking happening. Not even close. So the role-playing aspect gets neutered with this choice. It's plain and simple. It's a polarizing change. I personally actually don't mind it too much, but hands up, I acknowledge that it's a negative. You even see a slight change to the way that the special points and perks work. It's not as different as people think. I think it's more about the presentation and the UI, but you still have your special stats, and you still pick your special stats at the beginning. You don't really pick starting perks or traits, so that part's different. And then in past games, you can't really increase your special stats all that much after the beginning, besides maybe finding a bobblehead here and there, or some other special stuff, and you can get maybe +1, maybe +2 to any of your stats, and if you find everything, then you'll get +1 across the board, whatever. In Fallout 4, there's like no level cap. I mean, it takes a crazy amount of time, and you'd have to hit like, I don't know, level 238, 236, something like that to max out everything. But yeah, you can just max out all of your special stats to 10, and then all of your perks underneath it all the way maxed. So basically you have 7 special stats. Each one has a perk corresponding to each level. So there's a level 1 strength stat all the way up to a level 10 strength stat perk, and same thing for the other ones. So that's 70 main perks. Many of those, most of them, have the ability to be leveled up to level 2, but many times even to level 4 or 5. So there is that depth. But at the same time, if you can just unlock everything eventually, then what's the point of role-playing? What's the point of taking a specific build? There's not. You just become a jack of all trades, and again, that's polarizing. I kind of like it because I just want to be overpowered, but if you are actually role-playing like you could in New Vegas, big thumbs down here, right? So wrapping up that section, in general, the story and lack of decision-making has really, makes the OG fans not very happy. If you came off of Fallout 3 and Fallout New Vegas as some of your favorite games ever, got excited, Fallout 4 is finally dropping, you're going to be like, dang, this stinks. Just look at the comparison with quests among these 3 games. It's more than Fallout 3, but New Vegas just absolutely destroys both of them. It's almost as big as 3 and 4 combined. And even amongst the main story, you see more. And the DLCs, you see more. There's just more depth and breadth to the story, New Vegas. So I have repeated this a lot. Hopefully you get the point, and let's move on to the fact that, yeah, that's a downside, but I challenge you to keep your mind open about some of the strong suits, some of the improvements, some of the new stuff that they brought to the game. First thing is obviously settlement building. It's a robust crafting and management system allowing you to create and manage little communities. It's pretty cool, and it's relatively hands-off. I mean, you have to make a settlement, but at that point, you can kind of just let it suck if you don't want to engage with that system. And the Minutemen, basically the Minutemen faction, is where you do the majority of your settlement stuff. It's kind of up to you. I think it's cool. It's a little bit of like survival and, crafting type gameplay being added in. But again, you don't really have to do it. And yeah, Preston Garvey, the Minutemen's annoying. If you have a bunch of settlements, you constantly have to go defend them. And they're always under attack, and they always suck. They can't defend themselves. But yeah, that exists, and you have to admit, it's a cool new feature. Speaking of crafting with the settlements, normal crafting for your weapon mods and your gear, your armor, that has been really buffed. I mean, Fallout 3 and Fallout New Vegas crafting looks like baby dick shit compared to what we get here with the ability to create barrels, stocks, sights, mags. The pipe pistol can turn into anything you want based on your style. So there are fewer true unique weapons in theory, but you can take weapons and craft them to your playable style and the way you want them to be. A massive improvement in my opinion. I think the pros of being able to create what you want outweighs the cons of having fewer total weapon options. But, you know, that's, again, like another polarizing thing, but I like it. I do wish there were more unarmed weapons, kind of like Two-Step Goodbye and Pushy from New Vegas, if you guys remember those, if you've seen some of my short form. Launching enemies with both of those, basically like Power Fist type weapons, is super cool. And then in Fallout 4, like, you just have a Power Fist and brass knuckles, that's it. Little weak, man, little weak. But anyway, let's move on to another one. VATS is a little bit different. Instead of being a full pause for the game, it's more of a slow motion. So that adds more intensity to it. You can't just pause the game, carefully craft out where you're going to shoot the Deathclaw before it one-taps you. It's slowly coming at you. You can actually get hit while you're in VATS, to my knowledge. I actually don't know. Can you get hit in VATS? Someone tell me. Anyway, you also get a crit meter. This is the actual new part. On successful hits during your VATS shots, it'll fill up a crit meter. Once it's full, you have a automatic crit shot that you can use the next time you're in VATS, once you have AP for it. And that's pretty nice to kind of save it up, and it can save your ass when you're in a tight situation. Crit him, John! Realistically, finally, the main overarching addition or improvement for Fallout 4, and this is super obvious, but you gotta talk about it. It's the most important thing for me. It's the gunplay. The moment-to-moment gaming of the game. We're talking about a game, and the game plays better. Oh my god. You guys gotta remember. Let's look at the timeline. 2008, 2010 with 3 in New Vegas. Guys, Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 came out around then. Black Ops 1. Battlefield Bad Company 2. These games are snappy. Yeah, they're not as snappy as COD in 2024, but they are snappy first-person shooters. And when you go back and play 3 in New Vegas, it is sluggish and goofy. It is awful. It's disgusting. It makes you want to die. You get used to it, but initially it's like, what the hell is this old-ass game? And Fallout 4 doesn't get to the point of snappiness of COD, obviously, but it's way closer to COD than it is to Fallout 3 in New Vegas, in my opinion. It's just, it feels better. The moment-to-moment action hits harder because you actually feel like you're playing a shooter game in Fallout 4. You don't feel that way with previous titles. I also need to get into the modding thing again because it's just a fact. Like, having a mod menu built into the game, even if the mod menu is not as robust as something like being on a PC and going to Nexus to download whatever you want, it still exists, which means it's accessible to the console players, which means it is accessible to console players. Like, it's accessible to people. The whole thing where if there's bugs, just download a mod. It's like, well, you can't unless you're on PC. Well, now you can, because even with the Bethesda Net mods on Fallout 4 on PC and Xbox and PlayStation, you still get the unofficial patch. You can get some textures. You can get some basic graphical uplift stuff. You can get some wacky weapons. You can get fun stuff from the modding, and it's built into the game. It's not an extra couple steps. And I know that modding legitimately on a computer through Nexus is not hard. I get that. I'm an adult. I know how to download a program and then click download on mods and put them in the folder. It's not that hard, but it is extra steps. It's an asterisk. You have to make that distinction. It is harder, and some people will not do it, and then some people will have a worse experience. Now they're on console, it's right there. They can click in and download the stuff, all staying within the game, super quick and easy. So that's a win. That makes the game better from a modding perspective. It just does. Last main section here is the DLC. I actually like the DLC in Fallout 4 quite a lot. A couple of them are simple expansions on the whole crafting and settlement systems. I'm not changing my opinion on settlements. I think they're, you know, I don't interact with them too much, but for those who do, I know for a fact that these DLCs added some substantial stuff that is helpful and useful. So good on them for doing that. And then we have 3 actual legit normal DLCs. I started with Automatron. Eventually at some level, I think it's only like level 15 or 20, new robots start appearing in the game. Eventually you can find some notes and just start the quest, and you track down the mechanist, figure out what they're doing with this little robot army they got going on, and you get some pretty cool armor, some unique stuff. It's decent, nothing too crazy. I'm not gonna remember this one forever, but I do like the armor, and I think that it was fun. Then I moved on to Nuka World, which was actually the last DLC, but for level caps and stuff, it makes more sense to play it second, I think. And guys, this is one of my favorite DLCs of all time. It's kind of poking fun at Disney World and Disneyland. You go to a rundown Nuka World, a Nuka-Cola theme park, and each little mini park within it, kind of like how Disney has Magic Kingdom versus Universal versus all the other things. Well, Universal's not Disney, but you get my point, okay? There's mini parks within the broader park. They've got that going on with Nuka World. and there's like little mini campaigns for how to reclaim each one, and then you got all these raiders that you're the new overboss for, and you can determine which part goes to which raider, and then you can break into the Commonwealth. You know, this is a separate playable area, but then you can bring it into the main area of the game to take over those settlements and get that stuff going. I mean, you kind of have to play as a bad guy, so if you're not into that, then maybe you don't like this one at all, but I loved it, and I think it's fun. Big fan. Big fan. And then the final DLC is Far Harbor. This is another completely separate playable area, and it's a really strongly radiated area called Far Harbor, which is riffing off of the real-life location Bar Harbor off the coast of Maine. So it's an island in real life, kind of, and it's an island in the game. The atmosphere is really dark and gloomy here. You're tracking down a missing girl for her family, and you're getting involved in this tension between the synth refugee camp kind of thing and the goddamn Children of Adam cult. That's right, those psychopaths, they are back. They were in Fallout 3, super annoying, and they're more annoying here. You also have a pretty aggressive radiation fog for most of the island, which is pretty annoying, but we do get some really cool new enemies, some cool new loot, like a lot of new loot and weapons. So overall, really good DLC in my opinion. I forgot to mention one last thing for the main game, the soundtrack. Like I said, this was the first game I started with, put in 120 plus hours on Xbox. I'm up to like 80 hours on my Steam account. I've played a good amount, and the soundtrack's pretty nostalgic. It really is. You can tell this game came after Skyrim because the way Skyrim does it with the orchestral, you know, vibey, mood-setting music for various areas, for in-combat versus sneaking, for the main menu, that same formula is here in Fallout 4, and I love it. It's iconic, it's atmospheric, it's great. I've been using a lot of that music in this video. Yeah, it's a good soundtrack. It really is. It's not the best. I'd still say Skyrim's better, but I do actually like it more than New Vegas. You don't have those iconic songs like, you know, Jingle, Jangle, Jingle, and Johnny Guitar, but as a whole package, it's a more atmospheric and awesome soundtrack. So that's my thoughts on that. And just wrapping up this section with Fallout 4, guys, ultimately the rule of fun is what drives this game forward for me. I get that the story's worse. Fair play, valid criticism. But you can't deny that the moment-to-moment gameplay of this game is the best in the series so far. It's the best Fallout game from a gameplay perspective. I finally feel like I'm playing a game made in the modern era, and the improvements for me vastly outweigh the negatives on the story and role-playing side. If you're more into the story and role-playing, then obviously your opinion is going to be different, but for me personally, that's where I'm at. I think Fallout is an inherently flawed system. If you look at all of the games and all of the retconning that has happened between all of them, like, it's already scuffed before we even get to Fallout 4. You know, who f***ing cares if the story's not perfect and in line with the OG games? Like, Sean sucks. He's a psychopath. Preston Garvey's insufferable. Brother of Steel is goofy besides having Liberty Prime. Whatever. This game is S tier for me. That's right. I'm putting it S tier. I'm putting it above New Vegas. For what I want in a game, this is a more enjoyable experience. My white ass is smiling the whole time I'm playing this. It's the game I enjoy the most, and even if we want to compare a uber giga chad modded version of the game, I'm still picking Fallout 4 over New Vegas for the reasons I've talked about. Sorry, New Vegas fans. Finally, the last main entry in 2018, we've got Fallout 76. This is an interesting game, guys. We were promised, at least from what I could tell from the marketing and from the hype, from the discussions in the internet gaming realm, a multiplayer co-op version of Fallout. Like a co-op Fallout 4 almost. But what we got was the most broken release of all time, up until Cyberpunk burst through the wall like a meth head version of Kool-Aid Man. Thankfully, Bethesda has had 6 years to crank out improvements on this game. It is the main Fallout game that they're working on. It's like barely confirmed that Fallout 5 is even in development at this point in 2024, so Fallout 76 is their baby. And the time has done it well. It is not a broken mess anymore. It's not perfect, and it's not that great still, but it is playable, and that's a W. Oh my goodness. But yeah, just like with Elder Scrolls Online, when it was like, oh, we're gonna get Skyrim with friends, and then it was an MMO. Fallout 76 is not Fallout with friends. Fallout 76 is a survival crafting live service game that happens to be set in the Fallout universe. And I think that's a big distinction that most people don't understand. I mean, you're not chopping down trees, you're not mining for coal and other ores. It's not that much of a survival crafting game, but it is entirely focused on your settlement, your camp. CAMP, Construction and Assembly Mobile Platform. Another goofy acronym. Let's rewind here. The story's set in 2102, so this is technically before Fallout 1 in the timeline from when the bombs drop. You're out in the West Virginia Appalachia, as it's called. This is an area that wasn't directly nuked when the nukes went off, but obviously there's still radiation, there's still all sorts of ghouls and stuff, and you're kind of recolonizing the region and figuring out, there's a weird plague that has killed off the inhabitants. I don't know much about the story, to be honest, guys. I don't really care. The map is huge, though. It's about 4 times as large as Fallout 4's Commonwealth, and Fallout 4's Commonwealth was massive, so there's lots to do. It's a live service game. There's little world events nonstop. There's, at this point in 2020, they added the Wastelanders update that added legit NPCs. That's right, this game released without NPCs. Holy shit, how do they make that mistake? I'll never know. But now there are NPCs, so it kind of feels like a Fallout game. There's multiple main quest lines. There's things to do. You're not just aggroing the other people on the server, right? The server's got like, 32 people? It's not a ton, but it's not no one. You'll find other players. You can form little teams or obviously play with your friends. Kind of like Rust, in that aspect, but not really. I don't know, guys. This game's weird. But yeah, let's go into the settlements a little bit more. I mean, if you like settlements in Fallout 4, then they're better here. They're much more gamified. You got to unlock blueprints called plans that, increase the complexity of all these different things. And ultimately, the entire in-game economy is kind of run off of your camp, other players' camps, buying and selling stuff, all kind of exchanging caps, finding cool loot, selling it, or breaking it down to legendary tokens and spending those legendary tokens at people's camps or at the mall that has all the shops. I mean, it's an interesting game, and it's not a bad game. Like, on paper, there's nothing necessarily awful about it, but it's just, like, not really a Fallout game. Like, does that make sense? Like, it just happens to be in the Fallout universe, but, like, the story is all sorts of effed up, and it's just weird, man. I had to give it a fair shot. I had to play a little bit. I got up to like level 15 or 20, which isn't really that long, but I played the game. I made a little entry-level camp. I completed some main missions, some side missions. I joined a couple world events, and there's some fun to be had. There's some cool stuff. The leveling system changed a bit, which I actually kind of liked, although it's not for everyone. You still have the special system, but now perks come in the form of like trading cards almost. You start off with like 0 points allocated anywhere. Like you have level 1 across the board, and then you can put like 1 point in. And then the cards have a required character level in general and a required special stat level. So this is normal, but the fact that they're cards means that you can equip and unequip, and you can equip multiple. So it is very interchangeable, and you can really like adapt to your situation and the kind of enemies you're fighting or whatever. So for example, if you have 5 points in your your strength stat, then you could have 1 level 5 strength perk card, and that takes up all 5. Or you could have a level 2 and a level 3, or you can have 5 level 1 strength cards. Again, it's like actually kind of cool, but then it's just like the fact that it's trading cards and it's a live service game, and like so many of the perks are just like little tiny stat buffs that aren't that impactful. Or like, it's RNG, so you might get something unlocked that has nothing to do with your playstyle, and you're just like, I guess I'll use this. I'll get less radiation from drinking drinks or drinking water from rivers. I never do that anyway, but I guess I'll use it. Like, it's not the best, but it is a cool, different take on it. I don't actually hate it as much as a lot of people do. It's just different. I do like that you can change stuff around, but you're limited. VATS obviously got a major change here because it is an online game. You're on a server. You're not pausing the whole server for people. You're not doing slow motion. This would be a fever dream if that was how it works. So it just kind of does the VATS thing where it highlights an enemy, and it's not even like body parts really anymore. It's just like a percentage chance to hit the enemy, and you spend your AP points, but when you hit them, it hits harder than normal, I guess. And you still have the crit meter, so you can have a crit saved up in your pocket to use and save your ass in a tense situation. So there's still the crit aspect, but yeah, VATS is weird. It is weird. I mean, they had to keep it in the game to, it's an integral part of the Fallout identity, so I get it. But my favorite part playing through New Vegas and Fallout 4 was clipping any and every goofy VATS kill, especially with melee weapons that send people flying, right? Or just people getting folded. And you just can't do that. It doesn't exist in the game anymore. So it's like, I don't know, man. That is just gone. That goofy aspect is gone entirely. Ugh. So yeah, some pretty big downsides, and I'll get into some more of those, but I do want to give some credit here. There's a lot of quality of life things that have been added that are actually sick, and like going back to Fallout 4 a little bit, it's like, oh, this isn't in the game anymore. For example, group looting multiple enemies. You can look at one, open up all nearby ground loot, and loot it all from one screen. You don't have to go to each enemy one at a time. And there's probably mods that do that on Fallout 4. I don't actually know. If there are, comment, let me know. That'd be sweet. There's also a recently acquired gear tab, like a new tab. Again, this is probably probably moddable in previous games, but just built into the base game. That's sick. That's nice. I mean, mods are barely a thing in this game because it's an online game. Makes sense. Most goofy fun mods are going to be like against TOS. You just can't bring in a nuke football into Fallout 76, right? Even like food and water. Like there is a food and water meter now. Again, survival crafting, right? You can't starve and you can't be dehydrated. And that those items are different than traditional aid. And so now in your Pip-Boy, there's a food and water section and then there's an aid section. So it keeps it separate. It's just a little bit easier, right? Also, the final one here, when you're over encumbered, which you will be, oh my god, you will be, you can still move. You can basically spend AP, spend your stamina to move around. And this is more or less a high level perk in previous Fallout games. So now it's just unlocked by default. Very helpful. But you will be doing that a lot because the carry weight is abysmal. Obviously, ranking up strength helps with that. There's perk cards that can help with that. But my goodness, this game wants you to subscribe to its live service, Fallout First. Ooh, I could rant about this one for a 10-minute edited. Even after the edits, it's still 10 minutes long. This is egregious live service slop. Like, we're used to live service slop as a gaming industry, as a gamer in the present world. It's expected. We have to deal with it to some extent. Okay, there might be a battle pass. Cool, there's seasonal stuff, and that stuff's here. But like, there's loot and craftable items that substantially impact carry weight. Like, it's just a bottomless infinite carry weight chest that carries your ammo and other stuff like that you don't get unless you subscribe. You just don't get those things. So you're stuck carrying ammo, and ammo has weight now for some reason. I mean, it's only like, you'll have a big ass stack of ammo, and it's only 1 pound or 2 pounds, but like ammo has weight. It's pretty much weightless in every other game, or you can get a mod that makes it weightless. Oh my god, like junk is super heavy. So like, you're just screwed always being over encumbered because they want you to subscribe. Even private servers. You want to just have a world with your friends? Well, you gotta subscribe, and also it's a max of 8 people total, so 7 friends plus yourself. Oh my god. Am I the only one who remembers booting up older games and just being able to run private servers, like just dedicated servers? Like it wouldn't be dedicated. You would just host your own server. Like it would host through your internet. So as long as you didn't live 500 miles away or 5 million miles away from your friends, it'd be fine with connection. Like that's just like behind a paywall for a ton of games now, including this one. Oh my god, it really rubs me the wrong way. And the servers to begin with are kind of meh. Like fast traveling, that's a loading screen, right? Loading into a building, an interior, like a substantial interior, that might be a loading screen. And your character will like load in, you think you're good to play, but you're frozen and like you can't move for like an extra, sometimes it's like 2 full seconds. What are we doing? Is it 2024? Do we have the ability to have a 30-person server? I mean, I get that there's a lot more information with all the loadouts and the camps and you know, all the different loot. It's not Call of Duty. It's not Battlefield. There's more information being stored on the server. I get that. I'm sure it's even more complicated than anything I could ever understand. But come the fuck on. Like it's just man. I have gigabit. I am connecting to USC servers on like less than 40 ping. Like it should not be an issue, but it is. It feels just a little. It's just like not quite AAA level. So look, I could bitch and moan about live service and some of these other downsides, but I'm gonna move on at this point. You won't be seeing me play this game. You just won't. I was seeing some other people post videos, some Fallout creators that are like, hey, Fallout 76 in 2024 is not actually that bad, guys. Come on, it's not that bad. It's actually pretty good now. And I was like, yeah, is it, bro? Is it? Is it? Dude, if you're a true Fallout fan, this game's not good. It's just not that good. Maybe if you're young, you want to play the most recent Fallout game. This one only came out in 2018, so you play this one. Maybe you really want to play games with friends, and this is the only game that allows you to play Fallout with your friends, so you play this one. I get that. And I'm sure if I had been just screwing around with the boys, then it could be a genuinely fun experience. It's not a game, but it is a Fallout game. It is a survival crafting game that happens to be in the Fallout universe, just like Elder Scrolls Online is an MMO game that happens to be in the Elder Scrolls universe. We wanted Skyrim with co-op and Fallout 4 with co-op. We didn't get those from Bethesda. Same situation, same narrative. So yeah, again, not a terrible game, but it is a terrible Fallout game. I have to give credit to some things. It's not F tier, but it is C tier. And I just realized this has been D for the entire time. Now it's F. Doesn't matter. Nothing's going in it. Yeah, C tier where it belongs. And that is the end of our list. These are the 6 main Fallout games. This is where I'm ranking them. Hopefully you appreciated my thoughts and feelings on this. Again, I might go into kind of like a New Vegas versus 4 situation, maybe, if there's interest in that. I definitely want to do kind of a similar deep dive into the Borderlands series. It's one of my favorite game series of all time. We got the movie coming up in August, so it's kind of a good timing to get back into those. I never actually played Borderlands 1, so there's that. I don't know. We'll see. If you like the video, It helps me out. Subscribe to the channel for more gaming stuff, and I'm still got the Crab Champion stuff on the back burner, guys, that The update's coming. Storm says hopefully soon. Depends on when you're watching this, but hopefully by mid-July we'll have the next major update. Some awesome new stuff there, so I will be covering that. More build guides with new weapons, some goofy runs. Anyway, that's it. Catch you in the next one. See ya.